get ready with me while I yip yap about my breastfeeding journey. I've been wanting to do a little chit chat, get ready with me. And there's so many things that I want to talk about. Coming up on a year of breastfeeding, and we had a really rough start. He had to go to the NICU right after birth because he had some breathing difficulties. And then I didn't actually get to hold him for 12 hours after that. And so that was really, really hard, and obviously gave a less than ideal start to breastfeeding because I didn't get to latch him until, I don't even know when. I don't even think it was the first time I held him that I got to latch him. And then in the NICU, they're not exactly pro breastfeeding. I really, really had to advocate that, even though, because I guess I should mention, he also was dealing with tongue ties. And so I really, really had to advocate that even though he was not getting much milk from me because my milk hadn't come in yet, and honestly, he wasn't very able to effectively latch, I had to push every single feed. So every 3 hours, I had to advocate that I wanted to still latch him, even though it didn't go well, even though he didn't get much, and even though they had this like kind of clock schedule that if he didn't eat within 20 minutes, it was a failed feed, and that would set back the date and the ability of when we could get out of the NICU. It was like a race that we couldn't win, because every feed that seemed to go well, like maybe he nursed for longer, but then he had less time on their, I don't know, schedule to take his bottle, and then he would take his bottle slowly because he couldn't drink well because he had a tongue tie. And I mean, it was such a vicious cycle, so it was a mess. So that was how our breastfeeding journey started out. And that was obviously not how I had imagined it would go. And then when we finally got out of the NICU, which I say finally, it was actually a shorter stay than most people ever have in the NICU, I think. We were there for about 3 days, I think. And yeah, we were there for 3 days. Anyways, when we got out of the NICU, we promptly booked a chiropractor appointment with our friend, and who is a great, talented chiropractor. If you need a chiropractor and you're local to sort of the GTA, Burlington, Hamilton, even Niagara region area, let me know and I will recommend her. Yeah, and so then we also booked a lactation appointment, and pretty much he was not able to, we did weighted feeds, and he was not able to effectively transfer milk because of his tongue tie. So we also had to book a dentist, a pediatric dentist consult. Between all of this, he ended up, we advocated for, they didn't want to release his tongue tie until he was older, but we didn't want to delay it too long, because we didn't want, he kind of reached a plateau of, he wasn't improving his latch, his mouth strength wasn't able to improve further because his tongue was tied. And you know, like if you can only work out your bicep this far, you're only going to get so strong because you need the whole range of motion. So anyways, it was a whole thing. The reason I talk about all of this is because our breastfeeding journey was so hard. We ended up triple feeding for 13 weeks. And I mean, I could do a whole video on that in and of itself, but it, so I guess I should tell you what triple feeding is. But triple feeding is for each feed. So every 3 hours, the feed starts at the beginning of the time. So at every 3 hours, the clock would kind of restart, and I would breastfeed, and then we would give him his bottle, and then I would have to pump so that we had milk for his next bottle. For the first, I think, 2 weeks, we had to supplement a few times with formula because I just didn't have enough milk. But then as my milk came in, then we didn't need to use formula anymore. So he probably only had a few bottles of formula. Not that it matters, but it did not go well with his tummy. So it was nice for him to not have to have more formula, because his tummy did not like it, which was another one of the issues in the NICU, is that he would vomit. Anyways. So yeah, at the start of each 3-hour session, we would breastfeed, bottle feed, and then pump. And then that took usually about an hour and a half, which meant that all day long, all night long, we would have about an hour and a half between starting that process and restarting that process. Like an hour and a half of rest. So it was really, really tough, and we made it through, and I was bound and determined. I nearly lost my sanity a few times, but I was bound and determined to breastfeed him. And now we have been exclusively breastfeeding. I mean, obviously he eats solids now, but I'm pretty sure it's still referred to as exclusive breastfeeding. We've been exclusively breastfeeding for a year, and I feel so proud of that, for both him and for me, because it's been difficult. There was a phase in the summer where I basically couldn't go out because he just would not latch when I was out of the house. He was too distracted. He just was too fussy, and it was terrible and didn't work. And so we basically just couldn't go out because he would get so dehydrated that he would get urinary crystals, and obviously that's not a good thing. So we stayed home. And that lasted for, like I said, a lot of the summer. There was probably about 2 months where it was hot, he wouldn't drink, he was too young to like give him water or anything, and so we just stayed home. Yeah, this is kind of just a breastfeeding ramble, I think. I don't really know what my point is here, but all that to say that I guess what I'm saying is I think that breastfeeding journeys come in all shapes and sizes, and I think that sometimes they end quickly, sometimes they last a long time, and I think that every decision and every situation that happens is great if that's what works for you and your baby. I honestly thought about weaning in the last month because my son wasn't transferring to his crib for naps, and then his nighttime sleep got better, so that was good, but then it got worse. And so then he wasn't transferring for naps, and he wasn't sleeping well at night, and I wasn't doing great. It was very, very hard. So I started to think about weaning, and I even tried sort of some things a few times just to sort of break the sleep association with nursing, because we nurse to sleep. Yeah, and I'm glad that we didn't end up, because it seems like we're coming out of the regression where he's not sleeping, because he is now on his 3rd crib nap, which is only day 2 of crib naps, but after 2 long months of no crib naps, it feels promising. So yeah. Anyways, to any moms out there in the early days of their breastfeeding journey, if it's not going well and you wish that it would, if you're in that spot where I was, where your baby can't latch or whatever the situation is, if it's just not working and you're having to do absolutely everything to keep it going, if that's what you want to do, I mean, my advice to you is, I couldn't have done it without my mom and my husband's support. My husband took 6 weeks off, and I could not have triple fed for as long as I did if my husband hadn't been there, because for the first 6 weeks, every time we fed, I would do the breastfeeding, obviously, then he would do the bottle feeding so that I could pump. And when he went back to work, it was a lot harder because I did the breastfeeding, the bottle feeding, and then I would pump. But then my baby would be fussy because he had a lot of gas. And yeah, anyways. It was difficult. It was really, really difficult. And I'm glad that I did it. And I'm proud of myself for pushing through, but it was hard. And I think that my support system, also just the things that we figured out along the way, like I always had snacks made, healthy snacks that I could grab. I made these little oat balls. I don't know, I probably ate like 5 of them a day. And honestly, I probably gained weight while breastfeeding because I had to eat so much because I was breastfeeding and pumping, and it was a lot. But I'm proud of us, and I'm proud that here we are at a year of breastfeeding, and it's going well, and who knows how much longer we'll go. Who knows if next week he'll stop sleeping and I'll think about weaning again. But I'm proud of where we've been, and yeah, here's to making the best decisions for you as a mom and for your baby.